against the former Kingpin, Gary Scelzi. Scelzi gets the win, and his team celebrates the first knockdown in this championship fight. In Pro Stock, it was just as intense, and this rivalry also featured the two top guys from '99. Jake Coughlin upset the '99 Winston champ Warren Johnson. Keep your eye on Jakey. He just might be the guy to beat this year.
You won, buddy. 689 to a 695.
And talk about rivalries, the WWF against Team Force is shaping up to be the best in years. For the second time in a row, Jerry Tolliver got the win, this time at the expense of Tony Pedregon. Ladies and gentlemen, we have ignition. Welcome to Y2K. The sun-drenched Arizona desert, spectacular as it is, plays host to the second stop on the 24-race NHRA Winston Drag Racing Tour. From Firebird Raceway just outside of Phoenix, Arizona, welcome to the 15th running of the Checker, Schuck's, Kragen Nationals, presented by Pennzoil. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Fry, and we have got some great racing lined up for you. We've already got 3 rounds of qualifying in the books, and you're going to be surprised at some of the drivers that are sitting on the top of the fields and some that are not yet in. We're going to bring you live qualifying finals here and find out exactly who's going to make the 16-car cut in each of the pro categories. There are some great rule changes during the offseason that affected a lot of the drivers in a lot of the categories. Of course, they have 90% nitromethane. That's the max you can run in the fuel categories. Oil down penalties, both during qualifying and eliminations, both punitive with cash and with points, and 75 minutes between rounds for the cars and the fuel categories. That might have been the single biggest change. $500 if you oil the track in qualifying. In eliminations, it's $1 grand and 10 points, and that may cost a lot of the drivers. Let's talk more about some of those changes that affect everybody. Let's say hi to Steve Evans.
The first race of the season, the Winter Nationals at Pomona just a few weeks ago, on Sunday was completely oil-free. Not a single engine explosion. And the credit for that can go to NHRA's new rule mandating a maximum of 90% nitromethane. In the past, a lot of the top fuel and funny car teams had been using as much as 98%. How do the drivers and crews feel about this new rule? How has it changed things?
Everything's lasting longer. The expense to race will definitely go down because of this rule.
We had a saying here, max cackle, when we'd run 97, 98%. The thing's pretty violent, just sitting there idling. And when I would stage the car, when we had that kind of percentage in it, I would have to keep my elbows into my sides. If I didn't and my elbows touched the seat, it would vibrate so bad that I couldn't actually see the tree. So now with the 90%, we've got the compression back in it, we've got the motors up. It still doesn't quite have that rattle.
Well, the 90% certainly throws a few curves at the people doing the tuning like myself, but overall we had less oil downs than we've ever had before, a little less parts breakage. It may be a good thing, and it seems like all the same guys are still near the top of the heap.
When the nitro rule was first announced, you should have heard the groans and the complaints. It was going to ruin the sport. The cars would be too slow. At Pomona, they ran 323 miles an hour in the 460s, one of the best shows ever. Now, here's Bobby Gerald with a new rule that impacts the men and women that work on these cars.
Well, Steve, here's something you would have never seen in 1999, and that is 3 fresh bullets ready to go. But in 2000, it is necessary, and that's because NHRA has reduced the time between rounds from 90 minutes to 75. Taking away 15 minutes has really put the onus on teams to be prepared. The Budweiser crew, led by Lee Beard, well, they're prepared. They've laid out a couple of things here to give us an example. They have their blowers all ready to go, everything even down to the throttle cables all cut to the precise length. Now at Pomona, Lee Beard made up this race day log to show how their team performed. They had the car in the pit 5 minutes and 28 seconds after it pushed off for a race. Heads off in 13 minutes, car serviced and pushed back in 38 minutes. The warm-up finished in 49, and they had 5 minutes to spare. It worked well for them, and we talked to a bunch of different crew chiefs about how things went down at Pomona the first week of the new rules.
Yeah, I think it puts more stress on all of us, you know, all the crew members, the crew chiefs. You have to make decisions sooner. You're doing things different than you have in the past as far as, you know, how you look at things. And so, I mean, you know, there's more pressure because you have less time to decide what you're doing.
quality of the work, the precision of the work at the shop has to be spot on. When you're changing engines every single round, you cannot put an engine in there that is going to fail or is not perfect or won't run the same way the one that was in there was.
Oh, we made a couple changes to the car that would make it easier to change engines between rounds, and we just change engines when we get back so we don't have to take the other one apart.
So at the second race of the NHRA season, the adjustment continues for all of the teams. Now, for the big budget teams, it may not be as much of a problem because they have such tremendous resources. For some of the smaller buck guys, though, Steve, well, only time will tell.
Pomona was the first race ever to have fines issued for oiling down the racetrack, and here's how it summed up at the end of the event. $5,000 total, 5 dragsters guilty, 5 funny cars spilled oil, all on Friday and Saturday. Sunday was absolutely oil-free. Now, Ray Alley, director of fuel racing for NHRA, you don't enjoy levying those fines. You don't enjoy having to check this fuel to make sure it's 90%. But the misconception is that these rules are to slow the cars down.
Not at all, Steve. These rules were to control the oil downs and some of the catastrophic engine failures we had. And I don't think that these cars are going to slow down as these crew chiefs find their way around this. But I can tell you right now, the engines look a lot better. Our spectators are a lot happier. The owners of the cars are a lot happier because their parts bills are going way down. And I don't know that it's inconceivable that we'll be back to close to 330 this year yet.
And no team has been guilty of using more than 90% nitro, and that's really good, Bob Fry. They're trying hard to meet these rules. They really are.
That's all you can ask, that they're trying. Nobody's trying hard than Corey Mack, the Indy champ last year. He's won a couple of times in this race. Will he do it again this weekend? We'll find out. We got Top Fuel stuff coming up next. Coverage of the 2000 NHRA Winston Championship is being brought to you by Mopar. Parts for Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, and Jeep vehicles from the dealerships that sell and install them. That's the Mopar difference. Welcome back, everybody. And after one race, it's Gary Scelzi, Team Winston out in front. As you saw in our top of the show, he punched out Tony Schumacher in a great final round. It's not the last we've seen of that rivalry this year. With the top about 10 cars, just about everybody you would expect, except look at that Melanie Troxel in the number 9 position. We'll talk more about her during the course of the show. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Bob Fry, and with me is Mike Dunn, one of the winningest drivers in the history of NHRA drag racing, one of the few guys to win in Top Fuel and Funny Car, and he also won this race back in 1988. Mike, I got to ask you, as a driver, what do you think about all those rule changes they put in during the offseason?
Well, you know, I have a little bit of a problem with the one rule change as far as the penalty for the oil downs. That's still kind of a little bit of a judgment call. But as far as the 90% rule, the 75-minute rule change, that was a great call, I think. You know, 90% the car engines aren't going to detonate as much. It's definitely going to decrease the amount of explosions in the oil downs, and it's going to make the show so much better. I got to commend the people within NHRA. That was a great call. As
you heard Steve Evans say during his piece, everybody kind of harped about the rules in the beginning, but everybody kind of fell in line after that great Pomona race that we had. Take a look at some qualifying here. Hey, Gary Scelzi right up in the number 1 spot. Amato is top out in Pomona. He's number 2. And there's that Melanie Troxel I told you about, the Darien and Meadows car. She has a great story. Bruce Litton in the number 8 position at a 4.69, a very quick field. Everybody struggled during the first 2 rounds on Friday, and they qualified very well here in the first round today. Robert Reel on the bump spot at 4.84. Doug Coletta, by the way, not in the field, and he made every show last year in the 1999 Winston drag racing season. Well, number 1 qualifier. You're going to watch this Team Winston machine. They buried him out there in California. And there's not a whole lot wrong with this run either, as he gets into the number 1 spot at 4.57 seconds. Great job.
With a 4.57 and better than 317 miles per hour, Gary Scelzi, the winner at Pomona, is the number 1 qualifier right now. And Gary, I know this has to feel good, especially coming on the heels of the success at Pomona.
Well, you know what? It's a great start to a bad season from last year, and it really wasn't even that bad. We ended up finishing second in the Winston Points chase, but it was good to win at Pomona. It was good to beat Tony.
Well, we saw the clips of Valen Johnson, your crew chief, the main man, really pumping his fist. A little extra exuberance there.
Well, Alan puts a lot of heart in this thing, and he spent a lot of nights in Santa Maria over the winter to make it run like it's running now.
Well, you guys are running top-notch. Who are you most concerned with here this weekend?
Right now, I'm concerned with all of them, but probably a little more so with Amato right now.
Well, congratulations, man. Nice run.
Thank you.
Bob?
Thanks, Bobby. Mike Dunn, I got to tell you, everybody in the Top Fuel pitch is worried about that Team Winston car this year. They're hot.
I'll tell you, they finished off the year great last year, and they struggled really bad at the beginning of the year, and Alan Johnson didn't forget that. He remembered that, and he wants it to make sure that that doesn't happen again this year, and he's doing a great job.
Let's check in now with a guy who wants to be Winston champion this year.
Wes Cerny, the crew chief of the Corey McClanathan-driven MBNA Top Fuel Dragster, struggled a little bit at the first race of the year in Pomona. Really couldn't get the car past the second round or out of the 470s. But for you, Corey, this has been a tremendous racetrack in Phoenix.
Yes, it has. In the past, always been good to me. Even in alcohol days when I was running that, we did well here. Wes is just trying to inclinate himself with the dragster versus working on the funny car. We all know how good he ran the funny car last year, and I think we're going to do the same here with the dragster. We just need a couple races to get going.
What about the 90% rule? How has that affected you?
Well, Wes is really good with fuel curves, so I think that's going to be a blessing in disguise for us later on down the road. Unfortunately, right now, you know, the Johnson and the Winston car right now pretty much have everybody hands down.
Well, Corey Mack has won here twice, but in 3 finals, and Bobby Gerald's with a young man who won his first ever race right here in Phoenix.
And Steve, that man, of course, is Larry Dixon, who won here in 1995. It was your second race for Don the Snake Perdomo at that time. I'm sure you have fond memories of that.
Yeah, it sure seemed easy back then in 95, and as time's gone on, I realize how hard it is to win one of these races.
Tell me about the beer wars now. You've got the Miller Lite on, of course, Kenny Bernstein with the Budweiser car. In the last 7 events, you guys have matched up 6 times, and you've split right down the middle, 3-3.
I like the stat going all the way back to the beginning of 99, where we're 6 against 9, you know, and it just, it's real tough. You know, you got the two companies, I mean, they take their business real serious, and so do we. So when you go up against each other, there's a lot of pressure from both sides, Milwaukee and St. Louis.
Well, Bob, I like it. Dixon knows his stats. There's nothing light about this war.
That was a great run. Dixon won that, by the way, on a whole shot. We should point that out. Drivers love it when you bring those stats to everybody's attention. They're working on the WWF funny car. We got funny car stuff next. Welcome back, everybody, to the spectacular Arizona weather. Wish you were here. It's a postcard setting for the Checker Schuck's Kragen Nationals. And after one race, Jerry Tolliver and the WWF Bad Boys leading the points. Team Force right there in the number 2 spot. How about Gary Dench in number 4? John Force went out in round number 2 out there in Pomona, but we'll probably hear more from him this season. And Jim Epler, the other WWF car, rounds out the top 10 in the points. Mike Dunn's one of the great drivers. We talked about Mike, you won this race, and I should point out he also won a round on a whole shot back there in 88. What's this racetrack like for guys, especially in the funny car class?
Well, usually this track generally is known to be a track that shakes a little bit more than, say, Pomona or so forth, but it's also a track that comes in very fast. It starts out a little bit slow, but comes in fast, and the times start getting a little bit better as we see the sessions go on.
Guys really did struggle on Friday. There weren't a whole lot of good runs. In fact, your dad's car, Jim Dunn and Al Hoffman, made a 4.97 pass on Friday. That was about the best that anybody did. Let's take a look at some of the top qualifying runs here for the weekend. Ron Capps right now sitting in the catbird seat with a 489. There's that Al Hoffman and Big Jim Dunn in the number 3 position. Whit Bazemore down in the number 8 spot. You see Tolliver, he's not going to go away this season. The WWF car is going to be tough all season long. Gary Dencham, Kristen Powell coming out after a great test session down in Florida over the last couple of weeks, makes the field in the number 13 position. Well, Brian Capps in that U.S. Tobacco Camaro in the near lane, and Whit Bazemore in his bow tie Chevrolet over there on the far side. Capps, after a miserable season last season, comes out and he's number 1. Let's go to Steve Evans.
Last season, we didn't see Ron Capps smile very much, the driver of Don Perdome's Camaro. But he's smiling right now, as well he should, with a 489 on top of the heap with 1 session to go.
Yeah, we've had a great weekend so far, and it's a lot of people at home don't realize the time and that goes in for me to go 4 seconds down a track. And Ed McCullough is he's wonderful to work with. The guy's going to get some data built up every run. He gets more and more used to the funny car, and I'm telling you, this thing is a lot of fun to drive, and it pulls to the end.
With the nitro cut to 90%, can you feel the difference as a driver?
At first we could, because the motors seemed like they were running underwater. You know, it was like a little tugboat. But now, with more compression, a little more blower, and the thing's banging and hitting, and you're up there staging the car, and it's wanting to knock a headache into you. And you know, it's just, for me as a driver, it hasn't put a hole out yet, and it seems like that helped that part of it. And the best part is, my wife and all the rest of the fans up there can sit up there and watch a session, you know, without waiting up there 2 hours.
Okay, well, the crew is getting this car ready for 1 more lap. Maybe he will improve on that 489 or just try to get it right for tomorrow's race day conditions. All right now, here is Bobby Gerald with a story on the new Pontiac bodies that have very much the same aerodynamics as Ron Capps' Camaro.
A new body style for the Checker Schuck's Kragen team of Dale Worsham and Frank Pedregon for 2000 debuting here at this race. And Dale, we'll start with you because I know that you are very excited about the opportunity to drive this 2000 Firebird.
I'll tell you what, absolutely. You know, Checker Schuck's Kragen, they came on board with us. They increased our sponsorship for this year, and Pontiac's built some wonderful bodies here, and we just can't wait to get out and race them.
Frank, how have the cars changed now from 99 to 2000 with the new bodies?
Basically, we have the Pontiac has these cars as wide as possible, as tall as possible, and as narrow as possible. We pretty much went as far as the rules would allow us to go on these new Pontiacs.
Really helped the aerodynamics, Dale?
Oh, absolutely. You know, they've wind tunnel tested extensively, and they're ready to race.
Well, Mike Dunn, you used to race funny cars. What do you think about these new babies?
Well, I'll tell you, they look pretty swoopy to me, but you know, the key there is they're trying to create more downforce and with less drag or the same amount of drag. And anytime you increase more downforce, then basically the car is going to be able to burn more fuel and it's going to be able to go faster, and that's the whole thing.
Pontiacs look good. They're running well. Look at more funny car action coming up in just a moment. There is a huge crowd on hand at Firebird Raceway for day number 3 of the Checker Schuck's Kragen Nationals. Out here in Arizona, it's almost 80 degrees. I feel guilty telling you that. If you follow Pro Stock, you might think that's a mistake in the graphics. Jay Coughlin, not Warren Johnson, number 1 after 1 race on tour. Tommy Martino went over 200 in California. He's in the number 3 position. Kurt Johnson in number 5 with his Chevrolet. The second part of the top 10 also includes a Dodge. That's Alan Johnson, Jim Yates, who was top qualifier out in Pomona, and Troy Coughlin, who went to the finals right here at this race just 1 year ago. Now, in the finals out in Pomona, on the far side, Jay Coughlin, near lane, Warren Johnson. They were dead even out of the gate. Normally, if you're even with Warren off the starting line, you are in big trouble. Not this time. Jay Coughlin punched him out. Great win, and it's going to be a marvelous season for the team from Ohio. With more on that, here's Steve Evans.
There's a lot of Pro Stock fans that think this is the year for the Coughlins. And let's remember, last year, Jed Coughlin finished number 2 to WJ. But for the year 2000, they match up very well with Warren and Kurt. They've got 2 beautiful Don Ness race cars that work very well. 2 brilliant drivers in Jeg Jr. and his brother Troy, and potent Richard Maskin horsepower. What's it going to take for them to win? Well, they're going to have to qualify more. Let's remember a year ago, Jeggy Jr. won the Winter Nationals. He won it just 3 weeks ago. But then he failed to qualify on 3 occasions, his brother on 6. You just can't do that. Warren Johnson qualified for every race last year, the only car to do so. So that's going to be the difference in turning this 2 into a 1. Qualify well, go rounds, win races.
Steve, just to set the record straight, Warren's qualified for every race since 1987. How about that? His kid, KJ, who is the defending champion, number 1. There's Yates, another good qualifying effort. Look at that J kid right there in the 3 spot. Greg Anderson, number 8 at a 693. And, of course, Greg Anderson went to the finals at Indy last year and used to work for Warren Johnson. There's the rest of the field. Let's check in the pits with Bobby Gerald. More on our Pro Stock Top Qualifier. Watch this. The AC Delco Chevrolet in the near lane takes the top spot away. Kurt Johnson, who started out his Pro Stock career crashing here in '93, number 1 now.
The first 200-mile-per-hour run ever here at Firebird International by a Pro Stock driver goes to Kurt Johnson. Kurt, congratulations on a fantastic run, and how good does it feel after the problems at Pomona to be the number 1 qualifier?
Well, we're pretty pumped up. You know, you can't let those points like we did at Pomona slide away. We had some engine troubles there. All our engines were down a little bit. We found some power on the dyno, changed all our motors, but it didn't adapt to the racetrack, so we had to change everything back coming into this race. Put our combination back the way it was last year, and we're running big speed again. So the AC Delco Camaro, it looks like, you know, beating defending champion all. We're pretty pumped right now.
You had some damage to the chassis from the incident at Pomona. Has that all been rectified now, and you've got a clean bill of health for your car?
Yeah, it's kind of like a cup car. You know, you throw a few tubes in it and put it back on the racetrack, and the thing sets sail. And, you know, we went to Tucson and tested over there, made 5 runs there, and it was quick on the first run, made 5 perfectly straight runs. Come here, we kind of stumbled on the first run. Our clutch combination wasn't quite the same that we were running last year, so we had to adapt our clutch combination. But came back last night, ran 92, came out this morning, ran 89 at 200. We're pretty excited.
Congratulations, man.
Thanks a lot.
Bob?
Kurt's running well here this weekend, but point of fact, his dad Warren's struggling just a little bit. We're going to take a look at the finals and Top Fuel qualifying. There's the man. He won at Pomona. He's number 1 right now. We'll find out if he can hang on. Coverage of the 2000 NHRA Winston Championship is being brought to you by the world's leader in brake pads, Wagner Brakes. There he getting that bad boy ready for the final qualifying shot. Great crowd on hand here at Firebird Raceway. Final qualifying session coming up here at the Checker Schuck's Kragen Nationals. We got two great cars on the line. Mike Dunn with me here in the booth, Mike, and right now Kenny Bernstein, the Budweiser King, in the number 15 qualifying position. Paul Romine's going to be in the near lane and everything, and he is not qualified. The bump spot, Robert Reel, at 484, he has already made his run. One guy's in, one guy's not. What are they thinking right now?
Paul Romine at this point, you know, he's just trying to get down the track and get in the show. But, you know, he's got to run a 470, so they can't back it down too much. They're going to have to be fairly aggressive, but they still don't want to smoke the tires. Obviously, Kenny Bernstein, you know he's not happy with a 477. He wants to be number one. That's the only thing that's going to make him happy. So they're going to definitely try and step this thing up.
And he's in the 15th spot, as you saw there. Romine in the CarQuest car, near lane, not qualified. Romine's going to stay not qualified, and a nice run for the Budweiser King at 4.68 seconds, 310 miles an hour. That'll give the King a little bit of breathing room now with only a couple of cars left. He's going to settle in the top half of the field in the number 8 spot. Selzy still leads the way. Amato is number 2. Let's go down to the starting line and Bobby Gerald.
Well, Lee, you've got yourself now in the top half of the field, the number 8 spot, but you seemed a little dissatisfied.
Well, I think it was a pretty sucky run when Alan Johnson's car can go out there and run 57 and you only go 68. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would be happy about that, but not this Budweiser team.
All right, the competitive fires are really burning down here for Lee Beard.
Yeah, but they get some breathing room. They know they'll be in the show tomorrow, but they want to stay in that top half. Watch it again, Mike. What went wrong for the King, if anything?
Well, I mean, basically, it looks just like the run was a little bit soft. It looks like he may have got down on the other end, and I don't know if he spun the tires a little bit or if that was a little bit of grease sweep left over from Robert Reel's car, but the speed was down a little bit. I think it was just a nice, safe, soft run.
Let's get down to the far end of the racetrack now. Budweiser Kings with Steve Evans.
Well, I'm sure Kenny Bernstein will agree with Lee Beard. That's not exactly what they wanted, but it may improve his body language or bring a slight smile to his face when you leap into the top half of the field at a 468. Huge improvement, and you're not going to get bumped out with that.
No, and I thought we were, but the way things were going, the Budweiser King, we've been struggling quite a bit, but the 68 gets us there. Maybe we got something to work with for Sunday now. It's got, you know, just have to go after it.
There's a smile. There's a smile.
Kenny Bernstein's not only won Winston Championships in Top Fuel and Funny Car, he has won this race in Top Fuel and Funny Car. Now, Rhonda Hartman-Smith on the far side of the racetrack and Doug Coletta. Doug Coletta in the MGM Grand Car, not qualified. And right now, Mike Dunn, that's one of the big stories of this race.
No question about it. That was a strong car last year. It was a strong car coming out in the first race at Pomona this year. Right now at this point, Doug, the only thing he's thinking, or the only thing that he can think, is that, you know, if this car's going to run a 460, I can drive it down to a 460. He can't let the other things bother him. He just got to believe in his car, go down there and try not to make any mistakes, and hopefully he'll get in the show. A lot of pressure.
4.84 seconds, still the bump spot. Connie looking on. Patriarch of the Coletta Racing stable. Very careful to stage, Mike. He wants everything in his favor, doesn't he?
Yes, he wants to go in deep and get that lap time.
Rhonda Hartman-Smith improves to a 472, and Doug Coletta, who was one of only 4 guys to make every field last year, does not qualify here at the second race of the season. Rhonda winds up number 11. More Top Fuel coming your way from Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome back, everybody, and no matter how much we talk about the rule changes and how good the race was out in Pomona, Mike Dunn, sometimes things happen. Watch Ron Smith in the near lane.
Well, normally when something happens this early, usually it's a mechanical problem. It's usually not based on the tune-up, certainly not the 90% rule. I would say something like an oil line came loose and caused the fire and consequently made them smoke the tires.
So no matter how well you design these rules, the guys are always going to find a way, intentionally or not, to kind of like break them. And that's a tough break for Ron Smith.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to eliminate oil downs. All we're trying to do is cut them down. I mean, mistakes are going to be made, but that's part of the game.
Don Lampus was in the other lane on that run, and he wound up making a good pass, and he'll be in the field tomorrow. And Corey Mack getting a shot to come up and qualify on a single run right now. Corey's already in the top half of the field. What's he thinking about right now as he gets ready to make this pass? Solidly in at number 7.
Well, I mean, the pressure's off as far as getting in the show, but Corey wants to step up. You know, Wes Cerny, He's a tuner. He's not real aggressive, but he's very, very good. And once he finds a combination, Corey and I talked about this earlier today, he'll flog it and keep that thing running just constantly once he makes that thing start running. So he's looking to run a low 60, obviously, and get back in the hunt, because if he can do that, Wes will keep that thing running that way all day, and he has a good shot at winning this thing.
Gary Scelzi still leading the way. There is Wes Cerny, who worked with the Joe Gibbs funny car last year. Thumbs up. Of course, he comes from the Southern California roots, one of the real pioneers of Top Fuel racing. Wes Cerny. Nope. Corey went out there, never had a chance, Mike.
Yeah, it looks like the car left and then rattled the tires and got a little bit loose, so that consequently had to get out and abort the run.
Let's go down to the starting line to Bobby Gerald.
Well, Wes, it wasn't the run you want, but you're safely in.
Well, we're safely in, but the tire shake got us there.
Yep, too bad. What do you do now to get ready for tomorrow?
Well, we'll have to look and see why it shook. And if it's got slow drive shaft speed, we'll try and get the drive shaft up higher.
And they'll be a team to reckon with tomorrow, Bob.
Mike, I got to ask you now, their last run before going into eliminations tomorrow will be a bad pass. Mentally, what's that do to the team?
Well, a team like that, you know, they have confidence in both Wes Cerny and Corey McClanahan and getting the car down the track. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of concern, but they'll look at the tapes and they'll figure out, have a pretty good idea what went wrong. And like Wes said, normally on a situation like that where it shakes the tire, the car just wasn't accelerating fast enough, so they'll come back and step it up for tomorrow.
Good old matchup coming up right now. Joe Amato, the 5-time Winston champ, Jimmy Prock calling the shots against the reigning Winston champ, the Exide car, and Tony Schumacher. Now, it's a qualifying run, but do they go into this like it's race day?
Well, that depends. You know, a lot of times you're trying for a position, you're trying to step up. Obviously, Gary Scelzi being the class of the field with that 457, they may be going for that. The other thing they could be is they could be working on a race day combination where, you know, they may just be trying to run a 460. That depends on the individual crew chiefs. My bet, Jimmy Prock, he's always going for it. He's going to go for low AT. Dan Olson, he may be going a little bit conservative, trying to get a race day combination.
Let's go down to the front of the racetrack, check in with Steve Evans.
Well, Corey Mack's personal motto is, I play to win. And you wanted to show some strength right there.
No, I really didn't. You know, we've been trying to do that today, and it's just not taking it out there. It gets too aggressive, shakes the tires. One time you go up there, it's too weak. Next time you go up there, it's too strong. We've got to find a happy medium here for tomorrow.
They'll find it.
158 races in a row he's qualified for. He said, I wish it quit reminding me of that. Every time somebody brings it up, I feel I'm not going to make the show. Joe Amato is the top guy out there in Pomona. Probably feels like he let one get away by not winning the race. Number 2 qualifier right now, very solid. How's the racetrack, Mike?
Well, I think the racetrack's as good as it's been. Obviously, it's cooling down a little bit. The sun's not on the track, so you're not getting that hot, greasy rubber coming up from the heat from the sun being directly on it. Still, this track's always, like I said, it's been known to be a track that shakes a little bit out there about 60 to 100 feet, so that's something they have to contend with. But both of these guys have been real good lately at getting down the track.
Chance to watch the teams. They send their guys into battle. The Exide car, the reigning Winston champ, and the guy that's won it 5 times in the other lane. Great qualifying matchup. And a good drag race. 4.67 for Tony Schumacher, 317. Joe Amato with another great pass at 460. Look at that. Anytime you can outrun Schumacher in the speed department, you're doing something good. He runs 319. Tony Schumacher was number 4 at Pomona. He's number 4 right now. So it's Scelzi, Amato, Dixon, and Tony Schumacher. Those are 2 very good race cars right there. Let's get down to the starting line, get the opinion from there, and Bobby Gerald.
Well, here's Jimmy Prock. And Jimmy, you satisfied with that?
Yeah, I mean, we tickled it a little bit, and you know, I was hoping it'd run the same, maybe improve a little, but we're happy with that. 57's real tough to beat.
A tickle, Bob.
Schumacher must love that number 4 spot. He was number 4 7 times last year, and he's number 4 for the 2nd time already this year. There's Joe Amato down there, the defending champion here at the Schuck's Kragen National. Let's go to Steve.
Thank you, Bob. Just out of the car is Joe Amato, and I'm sure he's going to enjoy hearing that this car is repeating as it is. You heard how satisfied Jimmy Prock was with another 460. A huge speed, 319 miles an hour. Not bad, Jose. You are ready for tomorrow.
Well, like, you know, that's the trick in this business. You got to be consistent. So Jimmy Prock and the boys are doing a good job. That's our goal this year, to be consistent, try and win rounds, and try and win that Winston World Championship.
Joe Amato.
We'll have the final pair. It's Scelzi and Dixon. Don't go away.
You can see Turtle Diary, The Music Lovers.
Home
time. We'll be right back.
TNN. Funny car solidified his title recently as the world's fastest school teacher. Gary got to ride with the U.S. Navy Blue Angels at the Naval Air Facility in El Centro, California. And watch this baby take off.
Oh, my God.
7.2 Gs. And a fun ride. That's what 64,000 horsepower feels like.
Yes, we made it, guys.
From all of us in the world of drag racing, we salute the U.S. Navy Blue Angels. Thanks for taking the teacher for a fast ride. Man, if Johnny Gray thinks these funny cars are loud.
I couldn't even imagine being in one of them things.
Unbelievable. Well, John Force on the far side, Mike. Number 11 qualifiers. Gary and Engine both love to. What do you think we're going to see from John?
I think you're going to see a big. Awesome.
How about that? John Force runs it down at a 4.90309. Let's get down to Bob Gerald.
Well, Austin, that's a little bit more like it now. You happy?
Well, we've been struggling trying to get that basic combination for this racetrack, and we thought we need to get right in the hunt so we show we can race with them guys tomorrow.
Well, and I believe they just did, guys.
The Ford of John Force only bettered by the Chevrolet of Ron Capps. Talk about rivalries like we did at the beginning. Mike, not a whole lot went wrong with that car in the far lane.
No, that's pretty much a perfect run. That's what they were looking for. You know, they obviously struggled the first few qualifying runs, but you know, you give these guys enough run. Austin Coyle, Bernie Federley, and the rest of them guys will figure this thing out.
Great pass, 490, 309. John said keeps all those candles lit.
Straight as an arrow.
Man, oh man, great run for the champ. Let's go down to Steve Evans.
I think he'll be a little disappointed, though he didn't take the #1 spot. He likes to match this Mustang against that Camaro. Came up 100 short at 490, but still a solid fight.
Yeah, but it ain't over yet. That's why we got Tony right behind me in that Syntec heap. So, yeah, really, we kind of armed her up and still had her a little bit safe. Didn't want to just give it away. But that's good. Be up there, get out of that hole, and just invest all my sponsors' money right.
In many ways, this has been your home track. You've been here dozens.
I've come here for years with Charlie Allen, all the way back to that place. Got a lot of fun, but don't know hot rod she'll talk about that.
Well, that's what Tony's been real good.
Getting set to go, and Jim Epler with the WWF machine. They actually have changed bodies on this, Mike. Started the weekend with a familiar purple car. Changed bodies earlier today. Now they've got it lettered up a little bit, and Epler down in the number 12 position.
That's unusual. I don't know if they had a problem with the other body or they just felt that this body was going to create a little bit more downforce, because that's what you're trying to do with these funny cars. They've always had a big problem compared with the dragsters in creating that downforce because they don't have the big wings. The more downforce you can create, obviously the more fuel you're going to burn, the more fuel you burn, the more power you make, and the more power you make, the quicker you're going to run.
Frank Pedregon flying the sponsors colors here this weekend. Those new 2000 Pontiacs, we took a look earlier in the show at them. They've actually been nominated and won the best appearing car here at this particular event. Jim Epler's car, by the way, didn't make the final cut for that. Somebody once said it's a drag race, not a car show. Frankie, who drove for your dad last year, won Indianapolis, one of the biggest wins ever for your dad.
Yeah, that was a great win for both Frank and my dad. I mean, my dad has been going to that race for a number of years, and I know he, you know, like all of us, he loves that race, and to win that was a great triumph for him.
Jim Epler with the best of 5.09. Pedregon's best so far this weekend, 5.07.
The Undertaker car.
Great run. Epler steps up, 5.01 at 3.02. 5.17 for Frank Pedregon. Did not improve. Nice numbers right there for Jim Epler. That'll put them in good standing going into race day. Top half of the field now in the number 7 position. Frank Pedregon will settle in at number 12. Nice run for Epler's car. Let's get down to the starting line of Bob Gerald again.
Well, here is John Stewart, of course, with the Epler team, and that was a solid run right there.
Yeah, we've been trying some stuff. We put this new Camaro body on there, and it really seems to be helping our deal here. So we'll just keep going from there, and hopefully we'll be around tomorrow.
You have something for Capps and Force, maybe?
I sure hope so. We're going to give it our best shot.
All right, nice job.
Thank you.
Watch it again on the replay. Nice pass here in the near lane.
Just a nice clean run by the WF car. It's just like you know, John Stewart said, they were just trying to get down, got that new body on there. I'm sure when you change bodies, it's going to change your combination a little bit. It'll take a few runs to get it worked out, but if they can keep improving like they've been doing, they can be very tough.
John Stewart and Terry Manson now the brain trust with that car. John, part of the Krager 5-second club. He was around when Steve Evans used to work at Lions Dragway, Steve.
He certainly was, and he was tough then. I'd like to tell you ran a 4, just missed at 5.01.
Oh, 5:01. I thought they told me 5:05. So that was a good run. We got the had to retire the Undertaker here, and we got this new Stealth WWF body. So I'm pretty excited about that. So now our cars are exactly like. Hopefully we can learn from each other now and really help us tomorrow.
And they've got the tune-up for the new body. That's can be hard to find sometimes.
Here's Whit Bazemore in the Chevrolet, the little bow tie team machine for Kendall and Matco. He's in at the number 11 spot now. It's been bumped down a bit. In that 5-0 range, this is a team that I expect to contend for the championship this year. They want to get this thing into the 490s on this run, don't they?
They've got the budget to do it. You know, they know they should be running 490s. There's no reason for them not to. So obviously, them not running the 490s is, at this point, is a big disappointment. But don't count them out yet. Because this run, they could definitely do it.
Dale Worsham in the far lane. Dale is currently in with a 5:03, right in front of Whit by just 0.03 of a second. That's how tough qualifying is. Tim Richards right there, a whiz with these race cars. Got a great team there. Chuck Eccles, the owner, very heavily financed. They think they can make a run to that Winston Crown here this season. We got an onboard camera there with Whit. You love to grab a little mountain bike riding with you and here, Buds, huh?
Yeah, we've done a little bit of mountain biking together, but he's been practicing a lot lately, and he's probably a little bit better than I am right now.
Chuck Eccles looking on. Former champion right here at this race. As a matter of fact, now the car owner. Whit Bazemore driving it. Whit is very comfortable behind the wheel of this Chevrolet. How about Dale Worsham? Showing off for the sponsors here. Wow, 495, 305 miles an hour, all the way up to the number 4 spot. Bobby Gerald, the crowd on the starting line goes wild.
Yeah, they do. I'll tell you what, and here is one proud dad right here. That was fantastic, Chuck.
Oh, we kind of shot for the moon here for the home crowd, you know, so it couldn't have worked out better.
What do you think about tomorrow now? They give you a lot of momentum.
Well, this isn't quite what you can do tomorrow. This is pretty much the ideal conditions, but we'll get the Schuck's Kragen car tuned for tomorrow the best we can.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The new look cars, the new 2000 bodies painted by Texas Stagecoach, airbrushed by Dino's right here in town. Local boys, what a way to show up for the home crowd.
What a great job. I mean, just clean, smooth, right down to the finish. A little bit of a surprise that Whit Bazemore didn't do better than he did. It looks like he got a little bit loose out there in the middle. Not a big surprise that Dale ran at 495. That car's been capable. It's been ready to run. Here's an onboard with Whit. Obviously, you can see right there he starts to get sideways and has to get out of it, and there goes Dale.
Yep, we got more coming up from Phoenix in just a moment.
This Speed Vision program is brought to you by Move.
2000 NHRA Winston Championship is being brought to you by Mopar. Parts for Chrysler, Plymouth, Dodge, and Jeep vehicles from the dealerships that sell and install them. That's the Mopar difference. Great look at the Nitro Fish machine, Phil Burkhardt, getting set to go, and here comes the guy that's unbeaten, untied, and unscored upon in Y2K. Great on-board shot.
Yeah, there's the fun part of driving a funny car, doing those burnouts, getting that smoke coming in, but that's a great shot.
Pretty realistic?
Pretty realistic, yeah, but it's, you know, usually when you do the longer burnouts, so they get a little bit more smoke in there, and that makes it just a little bit more fun.
Jerry Tolliver now, not without question that he can reel in Ron Capps, take that number 1 spot. Phil Burkhardt trying to prove his qualifying position right now, but tell you what, this WWF car, they showed me out in Pomona this year, they can run with the best of them. Anytime you got Dale Armstrong calling the shots, tough to bet against them.
Yeah, Dale Armstrong, Bob Brooks, they've been around so many years, got so much experience. Dale Armstrong, they're just won many Winston championships, obviously, and you know, he's definitely got this car up and running. Come out there in the first race, and it's been a while since he tuned funny cars, but it looks like you know, he didn't miss a beat.
Burkhardt with a 5:02 qualifying. Jerry Tolliver down the number 6 spot. Started out the round. Number 4 has been bumped down just a little bit. As a matter of fact, he got bumped down by his teammate. Very good race team right here. Expect no mercy. It's set on the back of the car, and that's pretty much what they tell the rest of the field. It'd be a kick to see him go to the top of the pack, wouldn't it?
They'll be going for the throat this run, obviously being in the show, and probably seeing what Jim Epler ran in front of them. They're going to definitely lay down one if they can.
The great young driver. Speaking about rivalries, Phil Burkhardt, the Nitro Fish fan. Boy, the folks really took to him out in Pomona. Wow, 490, 306, keeping pace with the John Forces of the world. 5:01 in the near lane for that Phil Burkhardt. Let's get down to the starting line. I bet these boys are plenty happy.
Boy, I think they are. Dale Armstrong keeping pace with Force and the gang there. The 49 for Caps, 490 for you guys.
Yeah, that's going to make for some good racing tomorrow. But Ronnie Capps has to run yet, and I think they got some potential. They may dump it down a little bit farther yet.
All right, well, we'll stand by and see, and we'll look forward to tomorrow.
John Force, 4.908. Jerry Tolliver, 4.909. And again, Mike, I got to say, looking at that car in the far lane, not much went wrong.
Not at all. Just straight down the line, just clean and smooth. And, you know, 490, 305, and making a lot of horsepower. Dale Armstrong definitely knows how to make that horsepower.
Poor Phil Burkhardt ran a pretty good run. Look at this on board.
That's a great shot, you know, right there. Just the dust is coming in, and you can see the flames out of the corner of the shot. That's a great shot.
Great ride there for the guy from the WWF, Steve.
Wherever Stone Cold is tonight, he just got the chills. How about that 490 to third spot?
Hey, not bad, not bad. We moved it up. Dale said he's going to tune up a little bit for that round, and this WWF Stone Cold Seaboss, the plenty cars going to the races.
He's got that wrestler look about him, doesn't he?
I think he's ready.
Tony Pedregon out of Team Force. He's the guy that got hit by Tolliver out there in Pomona. And Ron Capps, Bowtie Chevrolet, out of the Snake stable. Well, everybody else has thrown their best shots out at Capps. You've seen a couple of 90s right here. He's running 89 and also a 506. What do you think we're going to see from Chevy?
Well, both of these cars are 480 cars. You know, Tony Pedregon's the quickest car out there with the new rules at a 483. Ron Capps obviously at 489. Both these guys are going to go for it. The conditions are right to do it. Why wouldn't you? If they don't smoke the tires, both of these guys will lay down a good number.
It's kind of neat. You have nothing to lose here. You're sitting on the top of the pack. Of course, now he's got the Ford car in the near lane. Little Ford Chevrolet rivalry right here. Capps team, Snake's team against Force's team here. What are they thinking? I mean, do they want to go for the throat in this run?
I think so. I mean, when you're in the show right now, I mean, what have you got to lose? You know, the conditions as late as it is, it's probably not. They're probably not going to see this tomorrow during elimination. So let's go for it. Let's go for the OET of the world.
Ed McCullough, the crew chief now, very talented driver. One of the few guys to win in Top Fuel and Funny Car. Well, like Ron Capps, like you, Mike. Maybe they're not as rare as I thought they were.
I think there's a lot of us.
Every time I turn around, oh, he won a Top Fuel car. John Force looking on. He wants to see what his boy can do right here. Very interested spectator here. This could be one of the great rivalries. The Chevrolet and the Ford, the Snake and Force. Final qualifying run for day number 3 at the Schuck Kragen Nationals out here in Arizona. The only qualifying one, but this is going to be so cool, Mike. Yes, they're hurting them. 485 Capps, number 1, the Big Kahuna. See how he does when we come back for the finals.